Hello everyone. Today I would like to discuss what Jesus meant when he said, "This generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled." This has been There has been a lot of interpretation as regard to what Jesus meant when he said in Matthew 24 verse 34 that this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled. Let's look at the scriptures and see what that means. What generation was Jesus actually referring to? Was he talking about a future generation or the generation of his day at the time he was making that statement? Let the scripture speak for itself. So, as the scripture reads in Matthew 24 verse 34, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." There has been a lot of interpretation regarding this statement as to what Jesus meant. In order to understand what he meant, we must first look at the question of the disciples that Jesus was responding to. In Matthew 24 verse 3, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" What did the disciple ask Jesus in the above passage has two main components. One, when shall all these things be? That is, in this first part of the question, they were referring to what he has said about the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, and the exile of Israel, and how a huge number of them will be killed. Why the second part of the question is they wanted to know the sign of Jesus' return and of the end of the world. So, in order for you to understand the timing when that generation that Jesus is talking about, when that generation is applicable to, you first of all have to separate this question into two parts, because they were referring to something Jesus said before as part of their first question, before the second question, what will be the sign of that coming. Let us look at the events that preceded these questions. Luke recorded that when he returned from Galilee before the Passover, as he was entering Jerusalem, Jesus said in Luke 19 from verse 41 to 44, "And when he was come nigh, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If thou hast known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thy eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thy enemy shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children with thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation." Those are the words spoken by Jesus before he entered Jerusalem, before the feast of Passover. Now, when he entered Jerusalem, many people welcomed him. They acknowledged him as the Messiah, and they were shouting, "Hosanna, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord." But the elite, the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees came to question the teachings of Jesus and his authority. In spite of all the miracles that he did, they did not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They did all they could to tarnish him before the people and to plot evil against him on how to destroy him. Before leaving the temple for the last time, he made series of pronouncements about what would befall the nation because of their unbelief and hardness of heart. Now let's read Matthew 23 verse 34. These are the words that Jesus spoke before he left the temple for the last time. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophet, and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children, even as a hen gathereth her chicken under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So, as we can see in verse 36 of this Matthew 23, he was very emphatic. He told them that what he said will come upon that very generation. So, and as I've read before in Luke chapter 19 from verse 41 to 44, before he entered the city, he wept over it. And he said that calamity was coming, that the enemy will come and destroy the city and the people will be taken to exile, because he already knew that the people will, the leaders, the representatives of the people will not believe. And the consequence of the actions of the leader has a great consequence for the entire nation. And after the back and forth conversation between him and the leaders, and how they did all they could to tarnish his image and wanted to destroy him, when he was about to leave the temple, the final words he spoke before leaving the temple were words that predicted the destruction of the country, both the temple and the city, Jerusalem, and how the people will be exiled. So he spoke those words before leaving the temple. But while he was leaving the temple, the disciples were trying to point to him how beautiful the temple was. So on that, when they left, they got to Mount Olive. That was when he sat down, then they asked him about what he said to give them more understanding. So now let's continue. After making those statements, he left the temple, and as he was leaving, some of his disciples were talking about the magnificent temple building. But Jesus told them that the temple will be destroyed. In Matthew 24 from verse 1 reads, And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the building of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciple came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? What were the disciple referring to when they ask, when shall all these things be? They wanted to know those things which he previously spoke about concerning the judgment of the nation, when it will actually come to pass. That was the first part of their question. So the question that they asked, you have to separate the first part from the second part, because there are two questions they asked. When shall these things be? Meaning they were referring to what Jesus spoke about the punishment that will befall the nation. Then is what they were asking, when exactly will that be? So those were the things Jesus spoke about. They wanted to know about the things Jesus spoke about. They wanted to know when it will actually come to pass. So, when shall this thing be, and what shall be the sign of that coming? We have to separate these two questions into two parts before we can really understand what that statement means. This generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. This generation that was referring to people of his time, people of his day, people that were alive at that time, meaning they will witness the destruction of Jerusalem. They will witness the Ezra. They will witness the destruction of the temple. So this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled correspond to the question, when shall these things be? In his statement, this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled, Jesus was referring to the invasion of Israel by the Roman army that will result in the destruction of the city, the destruction of the temple, and the exile of the people during the lifetime of the people of his time. He was emphatically saying that that very generation, at the time he was making that prediction, will witness the judgment that will be poured on the nation. In Matthew 24, from verse 15 to 27, it reads, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, not ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is cry, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophet, and shall show great signs and wonder, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So, in the above passage, Jesus told his disciples when the destruction of Jerusalem will occur. Unlike his return, that only his Father knows when it will take place, Jesus told them that when they see Jerusalem being surrounded by army, then they should flee, because the time of its destruction has come. He also reminded them about the prophecy in the book of Daniel that also predicted the destruction of Jerusalem in Daniel chapter 9, 26 to 27. Daniel prophecy pointed out that the people of the prince that shall come will destroy the city and sanctuary. It happened as the Bible said it. General Titus, who led the army that destroyed Jerusalem, was a prince. his father Vespasian was the emperor of Rome at that time. So the time of the fulfillment of the event the disciple asked about was provided by Jesus with a great precision and accuracy. He gave them a lot of details so that they will not miss it. So was telling them, when they surround the city, when the enemy surround the city, know that the desolation, destruction has come. That is, it will be fulfillment of the prophecy in the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 9, 26 to 27, that talks about how desolation will happen to the country. So those details that Jesus was giving, telling them about false prophet will arise, false Messiah will arise, those things actually happen. If you read the Antiquity of the Jews by Josephus, you will see that Josephus mentioned a lot of people who, at that time when the Romans were military were surrounding Jerusalem and the war broke out, a lot of people came at that time saying they were the Messiah, trying to deceive the people, because already based on the prophecy of Daniel, a lot of Jews, they knew that the Messiah will appear before the destruction of Jerusalem, of the temple and the sanctuary. So at that time, they were very, very eager to see the Messiah. Say, where is the Messiah that God already told them will appear? So now they miss it. He already appeared, but because of unbelief and because of the bad leader they had, they were deceived. So they were told Jesus wasn't the Messiah, so they were looking for another Messiah. And unfortunately, they didn't get another one because there's just one Messiah. And the details given here, we should not be deceived, because a lot of people have said, oh, for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. Oh, they would want to point this to end time event. It's not end time event. If you read the account of Josephus, the trouble the Jewish people went through under the Roman was so much that it was just the mercy of God that a lot of them even survived, because they were slaughtering these people according to Josephus, killing them. Eventually, they sold some, and according to Josephus, then when there were nobody to buy the people as slaves, their commander just commanded them to kill as many as they could. So the trouble was so much that if not for the mercies of God, the Roman would have wiped out all the people they met in the land. So the statement that if not for the elect, if the days are not shortened for the sake of the elect, no one will survive, is not making any reference to end time event. This very event was fully fulfilled in the days of that very generation that was still alive. So now let's also look at the book of Luke and see what Luke says. Luke chapter 21, verse 20 to 24. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with army, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountain, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Then verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon these people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and Jerusalem shall be taken away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So in both Matthew and Luke account, in answering the disciples' question as to when shall all these things be, that is the first question, Jesus ended his answer to that question by saying in Matthew 24 verse 34, this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled. While in Luke 21 verse 24, he said, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentile be fulfilled. After telling them all this will be fulfilled, he proceeded to give an answer to the next question. In providing an answer to the second question, he said, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angel of heaven, but my Father only. So we can see that Jesus made a distinction between the different questions that was put to him by his disciples. So in a summary, we can see that this statement, this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled, was actually fulfilled in AD 70 when the Roman army invaded Israel and destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, and many were killed and many were exiled to Europe. That was how that statement was fulfilled. That statement has nothing to do with end time events. It was exhaustively fulfilled when that generation was still alive. Many of Jesus' disciples were alive at that time, and they fled from Jerusalem just as Jesus has warned them. So, based on the scriptural evidence and also the historical evidence, we can see that this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. That statement was what Jesus was referring to, what will happen to the people of that generation. That is, they will witness the destruction of Jerusalem, the temple, and the exile of the people. It has nothing to do with end time event. That statement has been fulfilled. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please put in the comment section. And also I want you to like this video and share with others. Thank you very much.